Please, let's begin from there. Like anybody, like so please feel free. Like just what I used to tell people, there's no wrong answer, and irrespective of what you say, there will always be a meaning. So does anybody have any idea of what? I understand that you just finished your HTML and CSS class. So, and now we are moving to JavaScript. So does anybody have an idea? That's probably, I know you must have heard of the name JavaScript, but do you have an idea of what it is? So anybody? Okay, so please go on, Ruben.
So I would say JavaScript gives like interactions for your web pages.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
because I've read some some um documentations about it,
Yeah,
and even
yes.
the morning class.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's perfect. I love that. So any other person before we open the floor for today? So before we begin, okay, please go on, Aisha.
Okay, I would say it's a programming language that gives functionality to your website.
Perfect, perfect. Well done. You all did well. All right. So before we continue, there's something I want to talk about, right? You know, writing JavaScript, I will recommend for now for us to make use of. There's one application they call Run.js. So one of the technical mentors is going to post a link to the Run.js, although it has a premium feature, but it's you can use it for free. Yes, you can use it for free. So you can follow through this link. That's the rungs.app. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. So that I'm going to show you. I don't know. Are you seeing my screen now? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to click on the link. Now, this is the link, right, to rungs.app, and then you scroll down and then you look at it. This is, if you are making use of Windows, if you're a Windows user, you can just click on this and then it's going to start downloading, of course. While if you are using other operating system like your Linux and also your MacBook, yes, you can come here, click on other platforms and then download it. So in fact, you don't even need to set it up. That's the beauty of it. I have my own here already. You can see it here. I don't know if it's big enough. Uh, yes, I don't know. Is this text size big enough, or I should increase it? Okay, 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 awesome. So now we are going to start with introduction to JavaScript. All right, just like what Aisha and the other person said, that is something that is used to add interactivity to both your HTML and CSS. So this material, I want to give a special thanks to one of the technical mentor. I say one of the mentor. Yes, that's in with the name Ayo Mide. Yes, Ayo Mide. So he was one of the people that actually helped in developing this material, because I really wanted us to have a material that you guys can actually go back to in case you want to probably make reference to something, or probably you forget something and you are trying to recall, so you can always use the material as a reference. All right. So now, introduction to JavaScript. Now, for this class, we are going to be looking at these four major actually. The fifth one is supposed to be a practical section. So we are going to look at these four major aspects of JavaScript, which is the basic syntax, the data type, variables, and also functions. So now, beginning with basic syntax. I hope I'm audible. So, uh, okay, okay, beautiful. So please, how it works is any place probably in the process of explaining it to you guys, if there's anything you don't understand, you can always call my attention. All right, you can always call my attention so that okay, it's not installing. Okay, what's going to happen, right? In order for us not to maybe scatter the class or delay others, what we'll do is that let's just start the class now, and then towards the end, I'm going to show you guys how to go about installing it and all of that. So that's for those with Windows machine. I don't know, those with a MacBook, I don't know how I'm going to help you guys. Yes. So please, if there's any point where you have any question, please just unmute yourself and then go ahead. All right. So thank you. All right. So we'll look at now. Let's look at the brief history of JavaScript. At least before we even look at JavaScript itself, let's look at where is JavaScript even coming from. All right. Now, JavaScript, as is known, is actually created by Brendan Eich at Netscape. So Brendan Eich was actually working at Netscape as of in 1995, and that was when he created JavaScript. Now, I know a lot of people must have heard of Java, and then you hear of JavaScript, and then if you are somebody that understands Java, you now find out that there's nothing really, like both of them are not really related in any way. When you talk of Java, you talk of JavaScript. I think the only relationship both of them shared is that both of them are compiled. Uh, I say compiled. Okay, actually, Java is compiled, but a part of it is also interpreted. Why JavaScript is an interpreted language, all right? So if you look at it, they don't really have anything in common. So as of the time where Brendan Eich created JavaScript, he was at that time he did not actually name it JavaScript, all right? But then they were looking for something that will make JavaScript to blow. You know, there's some of us who say, I want blue like whiskey. And it's not all of us that has to say that, but some people will be like, I wish not me, I want blue, things like that. So they were looking for something to make JavaScript to blow. And that was why they now looked at it. So at that point, Java, that's Java programming language, was actually one of the top then and the most popular. So that's why they now decided to name it JavaScript so as to boost the popularity. And the strategy actually worked out. Yes, it actually worked out. So now JavaScript, as you know, of today was not the JavaScript that have been before, right? JavaScript has overgone a lot of improvement, all right, in the past few years, including the most recent one they normally call ECMAScript, right? We'll still look at ECMAScript, I think, in our third week. Very interesting part of aspect of JavaScript. So we'll still look at it. So now, importance of JavaScript in web development. Okay, now you guys have done HTML, you have done CSS. But imagine where in your HTML and CSS, if you click on, let's say you have a button, all right, and the button is supposed to like submit a form for you. Now, by the time you press submit button, let's say you created a form, you press submit, you find out that nothing is actually happening, all right? Or probably you made a website and then the website has like just like Jumia where you have log of information, goods, various goods and services where you can press next page and it will take you to next page with list of different goods and all of that. And then you just use HTML and CSS. You know, you might not be able to get that. So what JavaScript does is to add life and interactivity to your HTML and CSS. It makes your code comes to life. So that is what JavaScript does. For instance, let's say you create a calculator, all right? You find out that if you use just normal HTML and CSS, by the time you press 2 plus 2, nothing, you might find out that nothing is actually happening. Even if you peradventure manage to get away, right, to do it with HTML and CSS in such a way that if you press 2 is going to appear. You find out that by the time you do 2 plus 2 and you press equal to, nothing is going to happen. Why? Because it doesn't have a life. What you just did was to create the HTML, which is the structure, and the CSS, which is more like the paint, all right? But you have not actually given it life. So that is what JavaScript is all about. Now, when you are talking about the web, that's when I mean web, you know what it means. Anything that's to do with your browser, anything that's to do with www dot, anything that's to do with HTTPS, it's just JavaScript. Note that anything that has to do with web, JavaScript is there. Yes. So, and the last and most important one is that JavaScript is easy to learn. I know some of you must have heard of, JavaScript hard, hard. Stop paying attention to JavaScript is hard. If it was hard, I wouldn't have been able to learn it. So please, JavaScript is not hard. It's easy to learn. So put that at the back of your mind. It's very important. All right. So now let's look at basic syntax and structure. Now, when we say basic syntax, what do we mean by basic syntax? Now, every programming language has its own syntax and structure, right? So syntax and structure is more like the rules that govern that particular language, how that language is being written and how it's being organized. Now, if you look at your HTML and your CSS, there's a particular way you write HTML, right? You start from the doc type HTML, then you move to the open and close HTML tag. Then inside you have your head tag and your this thing body tag, right? Inside your head tag, you have your title tag and other tags. Then inside your body tag, you have your header tag, that's from H1 to H6. You have your paragraph tag. So HTML is structured that way. Now, if you come to CSS, you find out that the structure of CSS is different from that of HTML. And if you come to Tailwind CSS, the structure of Tailwind CSS too is quite a little bit different from the normal CSS. So all those things are what is being referred to as syntax and structures. So for that, we'll be looking at variables, data types, operators, functions, control structures. So you don't need to bother yourself about all of this. Sorry, you don't need to bother yourself about all of this. We'll still look at them one after the other. All right. So just put that at the back of your mind that when you hear when they say syntax and structure, is actually how a programming language, how it's being written and how it's being organized. Yes. So now variables. So what are variables in JavaScript? Right? Now, variables in JavaScript, they are like something that helps us to hold a value. Let's say, for instance, now you go to the market to buy cowbell milk. I believe most of us are knows cow. Okay, let me say pig milk. Yes, you went to buy pig milk, right? Will you go with your own leather to say like, okay, oh, Oga, don't come buy pig milk? Will you go with your leather like, okay, pour am for this leather for me? No, definitely. By the time you go to buy your pig milk, you find out that the pig milk has its own container. But then what you need is actually inside the container. It's not the container itself, but then the container is what helps you to hold the the milk itself. So that is what variables are. So variables are what help you to hold whatsoever value you are working with in your JavaScript code. Yes. And there are also rules for writing variables. Yes, the three most important rules is number one, you make sure you always start with a letter. You know your letters. That's letter A to Z. Yeah, it's advisable to always start with a small letter, but starting with a capital letter, it will still work even if you decide to start with a capital letter. All right. So an underscore or a dollar sign. So the only thing you can use to start the naming of your variable is either a letter, an underscore, or a dollar sign. But you can't start with a number. All right. That's the first rule. Now the second rule is always make use of Pascal case or snake case for your variable name. We'll still look at Pascal case and snake case. Now, if you are familiar with programming, you'll find out that there are some variables that appear like this, where if you have like you want to write my name, all right, the my everything is going to be small letter, while the name, beginning of the name, which is N, is going to be capital letter. Or you can get something like this, where you have my and name separated by an underscore. So that is the two most recommended way. That doesn't mean you cannot use any other variable naming type, but this is the most important, the most advisable to use Pascal case or snake case. Then thirdly, variables are case sensitive. So it means if I'm naming a variable and I name it result, and in my same code, and I name another variable and I name it result, you can see the difference between these two is that this is starting with a small letter, this is starting with a capital letter. The two of them are actually different. Despite the fact in English language, we say, result is result, all right, is the same. But then in programming, having a slight change in the case type will automatically make the variable different. So if I have these two in my code, the computer is going to treat them as two separate variables. So put that at the back of your mind. So is there any question? Is there any question? Okay, okay, awesome. Okay, go on. Please go on. All right. So
Yeah,
now,
sorry. I
okay,
said The Pascal case you mentioned, is it the same thing as
Yes.
a camel case?
Okay, good. Now let me open. Okay, my text editor is on. Now let's say we have this, my name. Now this is called a snake case. All right, where you have two different words connected with an underscore. You have a snake case. While Pascal case, you have something like this. My name. Sorry, camel case. This camel case. So where the first word all will be small letter, but for the second word now is going to begin with a capital letter. And then for Pascal case that you mentioned, all the words begin with a capital letter. So this is a Pascal case. All right. Okay. Hope I did not make a mistake here. Okay, sorry, actually, this is camel case. I'm sorry, this is not Pascal. Supposed to be camel case. So take note of that. I'm sorry for that mistake. So this is actually camel case. The first word, all is small letter, but the second word, the first letter of that word begins with a capital letter. This is a snake case, and this is a Pascal case. All of them begins with capital letter. There are also others like upper snake case, right? Upper snake case, all of them is in capital letter but separated by this. So you can also have something like this. So upper snake case. So you can read more on the types of case for variable naming in programming. You are going to see all the types, but these are the major types I know of. All right. So I'm going to do away with that. So let's continue. Okay. What's happening? Okay. So now let's look at examples of variables. Now, this is an example of variable. All right. You have your variable name, which is this, then equal to, then the value. That's what the variable is going to be holding. The next one. So, do you remember our law? Remember the three laws. Always start with a letter, an underscore, or a dollar sign. So that's why here you see we started with a letter. For this one, we are starting with an underscore. For this one, we are starting with a letter. But so far you are starting with a letter, you can actually add number in between. All right. For instance, you can see this one. I added 2, but it's in between a letter. So for that, there's no issue. It's going to work. So for this one, you can say I started with a dollar sign. So always take note of these variable rules to variable naming. All right. So now let's look at variable declaration and assignment. Now, variable declaration is a means of making the program you are writing, that's making JavaScript knows that, okay, this is a variable. All right. So now for you to declare a variable or for you to make a variable available in your JavaScript code, you have to make use of either your let keyword or your const keyword. Now, the difference between your let keyword and your const keyword is simply any variable you declare with your let keyword can always be changed. But a variable declared with const keyword, the value cannot be changed. So just like the word const, the word const comes from constant, is a short form of constant. All right, good. Now, there's what they call variable assignment. Now, variable assignment is when you are giving a value to a variable. So in that process, to give a value to a variable, you always use an equal to sign. All right. So, and after that, that's after your variable declaration assignment, what follows it next is a semicolon. All right. Although based on the advancement in JavaScript and all of that, you can still omit the semicolon. That you can decide not to use the semicolon and your code will still run very well. But it's always advisable to make use of semicolon. All right. So now let's have an example. So let's say I want to create a variable, right? A variable of my name. I can say, okay, now remember, you have to declare the variable first. And how do you declare a variable? Using the let or the const keyword. Now, if I'm using the let keyword, I'll say let my name equal to, remember, to give the variable a value, you need to use an equal to sign. So that's why I'm using an equal to sign for this variable. And what the variable am I giving it? I'm giving this variable a value of my name, which is what? Gideon Bature. And then when you are done, you end with what? A semicolon. All right. So now, remember what we say. Let's say in the nearest future, I'm planning to change this my name from Gideon Bature to another name. All right. I can decide to say, okay, since I want to change it in the nearest future, let me use let. So now I can now come back and say, okay, my name now, I don't want it to be Gideon, and I no longer want it to be Gideon. I want it to be another thing again. So I'll just come here and say my name, and then I can decide to give it JavaScript. All right. And now what I've done here, now let's check whether this one has changed. Now, before we did this, let me comment this code out. So before we did this, let's print what my name is. So to print in JavaScript, you use console.log. So let's log my name out and see. So what do we have? You see here we have Gideon Bature, which shows that yes, the value of my name in which we declare here and assign. We declared my name and assign it with the value Gideon Bature. So it's Gideon Bature. But now I want to now change it from Gideon Bature to JavaScript. So if we come here now, let's now check. Let's console.log my name here and see. Now, what did you see? You can see that now my name is no longer Gideon Bature. Instead, my name is now JavaScript. So that is your let keyword. Okay, let's say, for instance, the program, the code I'm writing, I want to give it my name Gideon, and I don't want this variable to be changed. I want it that anytime this variable appear, it will always be Gideon Bature. I don't want anybody to be able to change this my name from having the value of Gideon Bature. I'll just simply use a const. Now, using a const now, let's console.log. So let's console.log my name and see what we have. Now, we have Gideon Bature. Now, let's attempt to change the value of my name to JavaScript and see what is going to happen. So my name equal to, let's say, JavaScript. Now, what did you see? You see it's telling us type error. What is the type error? Assignment to constant variable. So it's trying to tell you that you can change the value of a variable you have declared using the word const. So that is literally the difference between your let and your const. So always take note of that. All right. So is there any question pertaining to variables, their declaration, before we move forward?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
please. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, which of the IDE are you making use of?
Okay, it's the run.js.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I'll still show you guys how to use VS Code, all right? Because when it comes to when we are supposed to be combining our JavaScript code, integrating JavaScript with HTML and CSS, we have to use VS Code. But since we are in the major, like the basic part of it, you can always make use of run.js because it will always give you direct feedback of what you are doing, which to me is much better. All right, so that's why. So it's actually run.js. So any other question? Okay, so it seems no question. So let's continue. Now let's look at basic operators. All right. Now, if you are talking of programming in general, why you see I'm taking my time to break down the basics of JavaScript to all of us is that this thing we are doing in JavaScript is also applicable to every other programming languages. So by the time you're able to understand the basics of JavaScript properly, you'll be able to also apply it in Python. You'll be able to apply it in other programming languages. You understand? So that's why I say I'm taking my time to do that. So when you talk of operators, right, basic operators in JavaScript, there are majorly 4 types. Now, there's the assignment operators. I believe we've done these assignment operators. Remember, if you are assigning your variable, what do? You use an equal to sign. That's an assignment operator. So you also have the arithmetic operators. we have the comparison operators, and we have the logical operators. So now let's look at assignment operators. Just like I said, that's what we just finished with now. So assignment operators is simply used to assign a value to a variable. That's just what they are meant for. So, and your assignment operator is always your equal to sign. All right, is your equal to sign. So take note of that. Now, the next one, we have arithmetic operators. Now, arithmetic operators, they are mostly used for mathematical operations, like your addition, your subtraction, your multiplication, your division. You also have your modulo and your power. All right. So all those ones, they are known as your arithmetic operators. There are other ones too. You have your square root, you have your cube root, you understand? But we will get into those ones. But for the basic ones, these are the basic ones, the most basic ones, your addition, subtraction. And for your addition is your usual plus sign. Your subtraction is your usual minus sign. Your multiplication, in programming, your multiplication, they make use of asterisks. That's your star, right? They don't make use of X. You know, if you're writing it in your book, your mathematics book, you always use an X. So, but in programming, they always use an asterisk. Your division, they always use your backward slash. All right, you know, this is the backward slash. You know, there's forward slash, there's backward slash. All right, so this is the backward slash. And then your modulo is your percentage. Modulo is simply a remainder. That's if you divide a number by another number, what will be the remainder? So that is what modulus is. Modulus always returns the remainder of your division, not the division itself. So then you have your power. You know your power. 2 raised power of 3, 2 raised power of 2, 3 raised power of 4. So this, in JavaScript, you actually use your double asterisk as power. So now let's look at arithmetic operators. Let's see how they work. All right. So now, of course, let's combine both our variables and our operators. So in this one, we are combining variables and we are combining operators. All right. Now, let's say we have two variables. Let num1 equal to, let's say number 1 is 5. And then let our second number, let's name it num2. So let num2 be equal to, let's say, let's just give it 14. All right. Now let's say we want to perform some arithmetic operation. We want to perform the addition. So for the addition operation, all right, we are going to have num1 plus num2. Now, if you look at it, this is addition operation plus, right? Now, our num1, what is going to happen here is that once we say num1 plus num2, what the program is going to do is going to check, is there any variable that is num1? Yes, there's a variable here called num1. Then it will now check what is the value of that variable. Is 5. It will now come and put 5 here. Then plus, it will now check, this is num2. Is there num2 in our code? Yes, it will come and check that there's a variable called num2. Then it will now pick num2. Now, what is the value of num2? It will check, it will see that it's 14. It will now bring it here. So it's now going to add 5 plus 14, which of course is going to give us what? 19. So that's for addition. For your subtraction, we have num1 minus num2. All right. So it's not compulsory. The space, the gap you see I'm leaving between the variables and the operator is not compulsory. All right. But it's just to make it look tidy. So that our code will not just look jam-packed. So that's why I'm actually spacing them. But it's not compulsory to space them, irrespective of how you put them, whether you put them together with the operator or you space them, it's still the same thing. So then for subtraction, then we can have multiplication. So we say multiplication is what? Is asterisk, right? So we have num1 asterisk num2. So what do we have? 70. Of course, if you do 5 times 14, in fact, we can use calculator itself to confirm it. Let it not be that Java may not be, let's say, JavaScript, they whine us. Abi? So let's say 5 plus 14. What do we have? You see, we have 19. So let's say 5 minus 14. So what do we have? We have minus 9. And then finally, let's say 5 times 14. So what do we have? We have 70. So we can come again. Then let's check division. Division. So we have num1 divided by num2. All right. So what do we have? You can see we have 0.357, blah, blah, blah. So let's check it. 5 divided by 14. So what do we have? You can see 0.35714. So, and then finally, okay, let's have our modulo. So modulo now, num1 percentage num2. So what do we have? We have 5. All right. Of course, unfortunately, this our calculator don't have modulus. This one that you are seeing here, what it does is it finds percentage. So if we say 5 divided by 14, sorry, I say 5 divided by 14. If you say 5 percentage, you see, it's actually a percent. It's not actually a modulus. But in programming, this sign is actually a modulus sign. So now, why is it telling us that num1 modulus num2 is 5? Yes, because if you look at it, 5 divided by 14, 5 cannot divide, 14 cannot divide 5. Why? Because 14 is bigger than 5. So for that reason, if you divide 5 by 14, you are still left with 5, because the 14 will not even divide the 14 is not able to divide the 5. So you are still left with your 5. Now, okay, let's say for instance, we now change this. Let's say we change num1 to like 8, and then we change num2 to like, let's say 2. All right. Now, by the time you do 8 divided by 2, what are you going to have? 4 without any remainder. So that's why you are seeing here 8 modulus 2 is giving us 0. So what if we say 9 divided by 2? You know, 9 divided by 2 will give you 4, remainder 1, because it will only go 8 times, right? So now you are seeing 1. Why? Because if you divide 9 by 2, it will only go 8 into 8. So you are still left with 1. So that's why here you are seeing 1. And then finally, for our power, we can say num1. So if we say num1 raised power of 2, if we want to do num1 power of, that's 9 raised power of 2, it's just simply num1 power num2. So we'll do num1 star star num2. And then you can see we have 81. Of course, if you do 9 raised power of 2, so let's try it here. 9 raised power of 2, you have 81. So that is everything concerning your operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, and power. So is there any question? Okay, well, hope you guys are getting it. I hope I'm not too fast. Okay. So all right. So now there's something about these operators. I don't know if, although I believe all of us, yes, all of us have heard of board mass. All right. Sorry, I wanted to write boss mass. So I believe. Okay, can somebody tell us what's the full meaning of board mass? Say board mass, like what does it mean? Okay, please go on, Jethro.
I think it's bracket open division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction.
Beautiful. So beautiful. So now in programming also, all right, programming also makes use of board mass. So that's why if you are writing a code, you have to be very, very careful. Okay, for instance, now let's say, let's not use variable. All right, let's still use variable so that we'll get used to it. Let's say n1 is equal to 4, right? n2 is equal to, let's say, 5, and then n3 is equal to, let's say, maybe 2. All right, now let's say n1, right, plus n2 multiplied by n3. So what are we having? What do we have? 14. Now let's analyze it and see what is going on. Now n1 is what? 4. n2 is what? 5. n3 is what? 2. Okay, let's say if we are to follow the way this code is, right, here it's easier to say n1 plus n2, right? Now n1 plus n2 will be what? 4 plus 5. 4 plus 5 is what? Is 9. Then we'll now say, okay, then 9 multiplied by what? You know, if it's calculator, okay, let's even do it with calculator. You know, if it's calculator, if we say n1, what is n1? n1 is 4. So we'll say 4 plus, sorry, let me, we say 4 plus, what's wrong with this calculator? 4 plus, okay, now n2 is what? We say 5, right? Then we'll come here and say plus 5, all right? Then n3 is what? Is 2, so we'll say times 2. What do we have? We have 18. But why is our code, giving us 14? So can somebody tell us why? Because from our calculator, we did it and we are getting 18. Why is it now we are seeing our code is giving us 14? Okay, go on, Jethro. Go
Okay,
on.
I think it will take the multiplication first because according to the rules of Bodmas, multiplication comes before addition. So it will
Beautiful.
multiply before adding.
Beautiful. You understand? So that's why if you are working with numbers and operators in your JavaScript code, you have to be extremely careful. All right. So in a situation where but does that mean there's no solution? Actually, there is. And what is the solution? That is why you have brackets being the number one of it. So this rule simply means anything inside bracket will always be evaluated first above of every other thing. So let's say we want it to prioritize these first two, right? What we are going to do is to simply put the two of them inside a bracket. And then what do we have? You can see we now have our 18. That's the number we are expecting. But once we take these two out of the bracket, believe me, what we are going to have is 14. So is that clear? Okay, beautiful. So let's continue. So just like I said, anywhere that is not clear, please, you can stop me and ask me any question. All right. So the next operator we have is comparison operators. All right. You know, the way people used to compare now. Say, I like Whiskey, I like Davido. Say no, I like Messi. No, I like Ronaldo. Say no, Ronaldo get 100 goals. Messi, he get 50 goals. You know, if you compare them, you understand? No, this one pass that one. So in programming too used to do this one pass this one. But it's just that programming own is not a lie. Like we human beings own is actually a lie because sometimes we can add bias to it. All right. Most especially in a situation where we actually love the other person irrespective. All right. So okay, sorry. So now comparison operators, right? Now we have equal to. An equal to operator is given by two equal to sign. We have equal value and equal type. Now we'll talk more about this equal value and equal type. Yes. Then we have not equal. That's when we want to compare two things and check that they are not equal. This is what we use. When we want to compare two things and to check that they are equal, this is what we use. When we want to check two things and to ensure that they are equal both in value and in type, this is what we are going to use. Now, this one too, we have not equal value and not equal type. We have greater than. I believe many of us know greater than. Many of us know less than. Many of us know greater than or equal to. Many of us know less than or equal to. So these are the most basic comparison operators we have. Equal to, equal value and equal type, not equal value and not equal type, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to operator, less than or equal to operator. All right. So take note of these comparison operators. So let me see what we have next. Okay, good. Now let's look at how to make use of these comparison operators. Now, just like I say, what they do is to check. All right. So let's start with the first one we have. Now, let's say we have let n1, that's number one, let it be 5, and then let n2, let it be 6, all right, and then let n3, let it be 5, yes, and then let n4, let it be. So let me do it this way. All right, why I'm not talking anything about having something inside of a string or outside of a string is because we are still coming to cover it. It's still among what we are supposed to do here. So that's why I don't want to run faster than my shadow. I want to take everything gradually so that you guys will really understand what is going on. So that's why I've not actually said anything about putting a value inside a quotation or not. We'll still look at that. So now let's go back to our code. So now let's say we want to check whether n1 is equal to n2. Now, how do we do that? We simply use n1. Now, do you remember the operator for checking equal to? Of course, is a double equal to sign. So we have equal to, and then you have n2. All right. Now, what did you see? What is it giving us? It's giving us false. So it's trying to tell you that n1 here in this case is not equal to n2. Of course, they are not equal. 5 and 6 are not equal. All right. So now the next one, let's compare n1 and n3. All right. So n1 equal to n3. Now, what do we see? We see true. Why? Because obviously, if you look at n1, what is n1? n1 is 5. If you look at n3, what is n3? n3 too is 5. So it means n1 and n3 are equal. So that's just telling us that true. These two are equal. You understand? Good. So take note of this one. I will not talk about it now, but we'll still come back to it. Today, oh, not another day. For somebody to say, which one come be this one again. We'll still come back to it today. But it's just that we needed to touch types before we will now come back to this. All right. So now that's for this double equal to. Now remember, after this equal to, we have not equal to. All right. So now let's check n1. We are checking for whether it's not equal to n2. So is n1 not equal to n2? True. Of course, n1 is not equal to n2 because n1 is 5, n2 is 6. So they are not equal. Now let's check n1 and n3. All right. So is n1 not equal to n3? What is it? You see, it's giving us false. Why? Because actually n1 and n3, they are equal. They are both 5, 5. So actually, you checking for whether they are not equal, we return false because they're actually equal. All right. So the next one we have is our greater than and less than. So let's check. Is n1 greater than n2? You see what we have here? False. Of course, what is n1? n1 is 5. n2 is 6. Is 5 greater than 6? No. 6 is actually greater than 5. So that's why you are seeing here is giving us false. So by that one, ask, okay, is n2 greater than n1? What do we have? We have true. Why? Because n2 is greater than n1. 6 is greater than 5. So we can now check. We say, okay, is n1 less than, is it less than n2? Yes, it's actually true. Why? Because n1 is 5, n2 is 6. So 5 is less than 6. So that's why I say this code is returning true for us. You understand? So the others, we have less than and equal to. So we can now check, is n1 less than or equal to n2? Right? Of course, it's true because n1, which is 5, is less than or equal to 6. So here, let's assume we now change this n1 to 6. Let's see what it's going to do. You see, for this one, is n1 less than n2? Is telling us it's false. Why? Because n1 here is not less than n2. They're actually equal. One is not less than another. But here, you see, this one is checking for, is it less than or equal to? So this one is checking, okay, let's even check whether n1 is smaller or is equal to the n2 itself. Of course, n1 is not smaller than n2, but obviously n1 is equal to n2 because they are both 6, 6. And that's why for this check we are checking is returning true for us. So the same thing too, if you do it the other way, n1, right, is it
And
greater
every weekend they on this camera.
or equal to n2?
I no.
All right. So please is that. Okay, please go ahead, Tally. Please, can you mute your mic, Jethro? Hope you people are not making jest of Adedayo as if he's sleeping. Allow him to rest. Oh, it's not easy. So Tally, please go on. Your hand is, I think you're raising up your hand. Okay, or was it a mistake? So is there any question? Any question? Okay, please, Tali, go on. Tali, you are raising up your hand. Please, can you go on? Okay. I don't know. But are you guys hearing me? I hope my network is not down. Okay, okay, no problem. All right, so this is all about the comparison operators. So always put it at the back of your mind that your comparison operator always return either a true or a false statement. It will always return one of the two. So always take note of that. All right. So now let's continue, right? So comparison. So just like I said, this equal value and equal type and not equal value and equal type, we'll still come back to it. So please keep it at the back of your mind. Yes, we'll still come back to it. Now the next one, logical operators, right? So logical operators, they are used to check for two or more comparison. You understand? Remember, we say comparison. What's wrong with this? Okay, so remember, we say comparison is used to check for two values. So imagine you now want to check for two different comparison. So that is when you now have logical operations. All right, that's when you are checking for two different kind of comparison. So now in logical operations, we have three major types, although there are more than this actually. Yes, but these are the three major ones that are being used. So we have our or, and the operator is this your single this thing, double of it. You have your and, which is your ampersand. You know, this symbol is called an ampersand. And you have your not, which is your exclamation mark, they call it. Sorry. All right, exclamation mark. Yeah. So now, what is now the difference between your or operator, your and operator, and your not operator? Very easy. Now, for your or operator, right? So your or operator, it returns true if just one of what you are checking for is true. Remember what I said, logical operator or operators is used to combine two or more comparison operators. So if I'm combining two different, like I want to combine equal to and greater than, what will help me to be able to combine the two of them is my logical operators. And the logical operators, we have or, and, or not. So for the or, so far any of the comparison operator that I'm checking is true, the result of the entire logical checking is going to be true. That is for your or. So far one is true, my result will always be true. My result will only be false if both of them are not true.
Someone
That
is
is for,
raising his hand.
okay, please go on.
It's still me again. I said I'll just posted the attendance link on the comment section. So if you please let me pin it to the comment section.
Okay. So you guys please fill in the attendance link. All right. So, all right, thank you. So now we have our AND operator, right? So the AND operator now, what it does is, so far one of what I'm checking, any of the comparison operator I'm checking, so far is false, my result will definitely be false. So you can say AND is like the direct opposite of OR. For OR, so far one is true, my result is going to be true. That's why here you see true, we have true. True, false, we have true. False, true, we have true. Until when we now have both of them to be false, that's when my result is now false. Here now, you can see, is when I have both of them to be true, that's when it's now true. But anytime I'm having a true and a false, so far there's a false in it, it's going to result to being false. So that is or and operator. Then not operator is like the opposite. So if I say not true, of course, not true is false. And if I say not false, of course, not false is true. All right. So let's do some checks. Let's do some checking with this logical. Let's just do a simple illustration of these logical operations, right? And see. All right. So let's say we have let n1 equal to let's say I like using 5. Let me change number 10, and then let n2 let's say 15. All right. And okay, let's even add another. Let n3 let's say equal to no, I like 5 too much. True. Yes. So now we can check. We can say, okay, using our logical operator, right? We can say, we can check, is n1 less than n2? Or now, of course, we are checking, is n1 less than n2? Or we are checking, is n2 less than, okay, let's start like this, is n2, yes, greater than n1? So now let's analyze this. All right, you know what we are checking here is that we are saying, is 10 less than, what is n2? 15, or is 15 greater than 10? So let's check here. All right, okay, yeah, I think I wanted to say n3, and let me just use n3 here. So n3 here is 2. So let's see, is 10 less than 15? Yes, 10 is less than 15. Is 15 greater than 2? Yes, of course, 15 is greater than 2. So you can see this aspect of our code, we return true. This aspect of our code, we also return true. Now, combining both of them using or, true or true, will always give us true. Now, okay, let's see. Let's check. Okay, before we even do this, let me break down the code so that we understand what is going on. All right, now you can see n is less than n2. 10 is less than 15 is true. n2 is greater than n3. 15 is greater than 2 is also true. So now combining these two with our or statement now, that's when we now have this. All right, now true or true will give us true. Now let's say, for instance, we now change this check for n2 to be less than. Now, is n1 less than n2? Yes, 10 is less than 15. But is n2 less than n3? Is 15 less than 2? No, 15 is not less than 2. But irrespective, you can see that we still have true. It still returns true to us. All right, good. Because now, how do we know that this one is not true? Now, let's divide it. Let's break it. You can see this one is giving us true, but this one is giving us false. Why? Because of a truth, n2 is not less than n3. 15 is not less than 2. You understand? But by the time we use an or operation, you can see that it's giving us true. Why? Because at least one of the statement, which is this statement here, is returning true. So let's check another one. Let's say n1 is greater than n2, but n2 is less than n3. Now, is n1 greater than n2? No, 10 is not greater than 15. How? We can even confirm it here by breaking the two statements. Here, you see it's giving us false. Why? Because n1 is not greater than n2. 10 is not greater than 15. And here too, n2 is not less than n3. 15 is not greater than 2. So you can see both of them having, both of the statements are false. So in that case, if we now use or statement, all right, sorry. So if we use or statement for both of them, you can see that what we are having is false. Why? Because both statements are actually false. So by the time we now change, this one is false already. This one is, so by the time we leave this one as being false and we now change this one to a statement that is true, all right, you can see that if we split both of them, you can see that this first one is false. Why? Because n1 is not greater than n2. But n2 here is greater than n3. So this is true. So because of this one is true, by the time we now join both of them with our or statement, you can see that what we are going to have is true. So that is your or statement. Now, by the time we move to and, all right, and statement. Now, if you look at this, or permit me, let me just copy this. and then paste it here. So now by the time we change it to an AND statement, now you can see, is N1 greater than N2? No, it's not. So this statement is false. But is N2 greater than N3? Yes, 50 is greater than 2. So it's true, right? But you can see that what is still giving us false. Why? Because so far one of the statements, the comparison statement is false. Our logical operator AND will always return false. Unless in a situation where both of them are true. So in this case, N1 is less than N2, all right? And N2 is greater than N3. So only when both of them are true, that's when our logical AND will return true. So just like I said, all right, by the time we now check for the logical NOT, it means the opposite. So let's say for this one, let's check. N1 is less than N2 is true. So by the time I introduce our logical NOT, it's going to change it. Let me put it inside bracket. Sorry. Now it's going to change it. You can see is a false statement. But truly, if you look at it, 10 is actually less than 15. But because we are now introducing not, remember what we said about not? It gives the opposite. All right. Just like we say, not true is false, not false is true. So that is what is happening here too, right? Where we have not, because here 10 is less than 15 is true. So not true will give us false. So by the time we change this one now to greater than, right? Now, N1 is greater than N2, that's 10 is greater than 15 is actually false. But not false is actually true. You understand? Yeah. So is there any question?
Sorry, Mr. Gideon, if you are speaking, you are muted.
Okay, so any question? Is there any question? Sorry for the interruption. All right, is there any question? All right, so let's go on. So sorry for the interruption. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Okay, so like you people are sure, no question. Ha, you people are guru, chin sons. Kai, I wish to be like you people. Jesus, that I was learning JavaScript. Hey, you guys to ask question. Thank God for it. Thank God that the tutor did not push me out of the class, because I was just asking question. So, no problem. Oh. See people that say you don't have question. Nisha, I will still give my assignment. That's my own. So let's continue. Now we have data types, all right, and in JavaScript. And then when you talk of data types in JavaScript, that's why we are looking at JavaScript. When it comes to other languages, there are various data types like your character, but then our focus, your strings, your I believe some of you must have heard of those data types. You have your integers, you have your signed integers, unsigned integers, and all of that. But don't bother about that one. That's not our emphasis. Our emphasis is those ones in JavaScript. So now there are different data types in JavaScript, but the most basic ones we are having are these four you are seeing on the screen. We have numbers, we have strings, we have booleans, we have null and undefined. So now when you talk of numbers, all right, anything that's to do with number, whether it's a decimal point, whether it's a whole number, whether it's a fraction, you understand, whether it's a power, whether it's in standard form, so far is a number, it all falls under the categories of numbers. All right. When you talk of strings, anything that has to do with a letter, alphabets, words, sentences, those falls under strings. And when you are dealing with string, you always have to put them. Okay, I'm even going ahead of myself. I'm sorry for that. Let me stop. Then next we have booleans. Booleans is when you have, if you remember, all this why we have been treating logical operators and comparison. You have been seeing true, false, true, false. So that's booleans. Booleans in particular is true or false. So that's the boolean data type. And then finally, you have your null and undefined. So this null and undefined, we'll look at it. Yes. So let's start with numbers now, right? So number in JavaScript is a numerical value, right? That can either be an integer or floating point. I've said it already. So integer, when you will hear the word integer, integer simply means whole number. Whole numbers, that's integers. Then when you hear of floating point numbers, they are simply decimal. You say that number we get point, it's 8.2. That's a floating point number. Yeah, in programming. Well, of course, mathematically they call it decimal number. So that's it. So now let's declare numbers and see. Now, if you see, we have been actually working with numbers all this while. Like here we have 10. 10 here is a number. 15 years a number, 2 years a number. Now let's add another one. Let's N4, let's say 25.25, right? Now, this is a decimal. In JavaScript, it still falls under the category of number. Now, another person might ask, then how can we check the data type of a variable, right? Now, in JavaScript, the way you can check for the data type of a variable is using the method or the function type of. So to check the data type of what this N1 is, I'll simply come and say type of N1. Now, what do you see here? You see number. Okay, so sorry for the interruption. So now we can check for, I know somebody will say, but this one too is number, this one is number, maybe because it's a whole number. Now let's check for the one that is even a decimal and see. So we'll say type of, right, and 4. So what do we have? Now you can see we are still having a number. So anything that is a number, whether a whole number, a decimal point, a fraction, if I can even try another one, let's N5, right? Let's say 5 divided by 2. Isn't it? So let's check type of. So type of N5. So what do we have? You can see it's still a number. So whether it's a decimal point, whether it's a fraction, whether it's a whole number, it still falls under the data type called number. So that's numbers for you. So please, let's go on. Now, the next one, let's see strings. Now, what are strings? Now, just like I explained, strings are words, strings are sentences, strings are words, strings are sentences, strings are character. Although, let me not say string is a character, but in JavaScript, character falls under string. But in other programming languages like C, of course, you have character is different from a string, all right? So, but in JavaScript, everything falls under character, falls under strings. I'm sorry for repeating that. So, and you can either, a string is always declared inside of either a double quotation or a single quotation. If you are starting with a double quotation, you must end it with a double quotation. If you are starting with a single quotation, you must end it with a single quotation. Not that here you will start with double, then the ending you now put single, it will throw an error. Or here you start with single, then the ending you start with double, it will throw you an error. So let's experiment and see. All right. So let's say let name equal to. So can somebody please tell him his name so that we'll use his name? Nobody. So let me use Eric. No, I don't know if Eric is among those in the call. So let's name. So you can see here in this case, I'm actually using a double quotation. But that does not mean I cannot use a single quotation. I can say name 2 is equal to Gideon. So this is a single quotation, right? If I like, I can say let name initial be equal to G. That's just the first name initial, right? And I can decide to say, okay, const country equal to Nigeria, right? So now we can say type of, now let's check all of them. Name, type, oh God, sorry, type of name 2, type of name underscore initial, type of country. So you can see all of them string, 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 string. So far you are having anything. In fact, okay, let me even show you. Let my number equal to 0800002. Now, say this is a number, right? Or let's even say 54. Say this is a number. You know, normally you say, but this is a number. But so far, I put it inside a quotation, either a double or a single quotation. It has become a string. So I cannot say type, let's even confirm, type of my number. Now, what do you see? You see is a string. So just put at the back of your mind. In fact, okay, let me even shock you again. Let me shock you, right? So let's say true. Now you know true and false. So say true and false is Boolean, right? Is a Boolean data type. But just because we put the true inside the quotation mark, automatically it will become a string. So by the time we say type of, right? Let me shock you. Now what do we have? You can see is a string. So put it at the back of your mind. So is there any question? But hope I'm audible. Like, hope you guys are still hearing me. Hope it's not that my network have cut. Okay. And the way people are not asking questions that is making me afraid like this. Ha. No, this way. All right. So that's it. So let's look at the other ones. Now strings. Now we have Boolean. Just like I said, Boolean only have 2 values, which is either true or false. So let's experiment with it and see what we have. So we can say, let have eaten. True. All right. Let is night equal to false. So this one is more like an attempt of asking, have you eaten? True. Yes, I've eaten. Is night? Is it night? No, it's not yet night. False. So let's check. Type of have eaten. What do we have? You see, it's Boolean. Type of is night. So what do we have? Boolean. So you can see. So always take note of that. Your Boolean value is either true or your false. But remember, even as a Boolean, if I mistakenly put it inside a single or double quote, what do I have? It will become a string. So always take note of that. All right. Yeah. So let's continue. Now, we have null and undefined. So before I go further, is there any question? Okay, please go on, Jethro. I'm listening.
So I just want to make a comment. Don't feel as if you are not understanding. I just
Okay.
guess that people who are on the call actually were in the morning session and the thing is still fresh on our heads. So I think that's why we have less questions for you, sir.
All right, all right, all right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. No problem. No problem. Thank you for that comment. So let's go on. Okay. So now null and undefined, right? So null in JavaScript, right, is an absence of an object. Now we'll still talk about objects. I think in our week 2 or 3 we'll talk more about it. But just like I said, the goal of this class is to make sure you understand the basics of JavaScript. So that's why I'm not really talking about objects right now. All right. Even I would have told you that everything in JavaScript is an object, but let's leave that one till then. So null in JavaScript is a representation of an absence of any object, and it has a value, just like how Boolean has value of true or false. Null also has value of is a value itself. You understand? So okay, please give me some minutes. All right. So let's go on. So just like I'm saying, null is a value on its own. So if I say let I am null, right, equal to null. Now by the time we check type type of what, I am null, right? Now what do we have? You can see object. All right. So null itself is an object, though, but it's more like it's telling you that it's more like something that represents absent of an object. But the null itself is an object. Yes. So, but just like I said, we'll not go deep into objects for now. So we'll leave it that way. All right. So now let's go. Why the other one is undefined? Now, undefined, if you remember what we are saying, right? We're talking about declaration and initialization. All right, where we say you declare a variable and you initialize a variable. Now we can decide to declare a variable. Let's say now I want to use a variable called score or count, right? But in my code, I don't want to use the count yet. I want to use it in the later part of my code, but I just want it to be at the top of my code so that I will know that, okay, this variable is something I will use later. Now, by the time I now check, right, type of count, undefined. Now, why is it saying undefined? Because of a reality, what will determine the type of this count is the value I'm giving to it. So if peradventure I decide to give it a string value, it will tell me that it's a string. If I decide to give it a number, it will tell me that it's a number. If I decide to give it a Boolean, it will tell me a Boolean. But in this case, I've not given it any value. So JavaScript cannot really recognize it as it is. So definitely in that case, it's going to show me that it's undefined. So that is the difference between a null value and an undefined value. So take note of that. So is there any question? So is there any question? Okay, no question. So let me hold on to Jethro's word. Okay, so let's continue. Now, functions. What are functions? Now, JavaScript functions, right, are block of code that can be used many times. Let's say now I want to create a calculator. All right. Of course, I can't just come here. Remember the calculator we did, right? When we say let n1 is let's say 5, and then we say let n2, let's say 6, right? Then we'll now come, we'll now say n1 plus n2. All right. Now imagine that we made a calculator and this is just our calculator. Okay, what if the person that is coming to use our calculator don't want to add 5 and 6? What is another number different, entirely different that he wants to add? How is he going to go about it? So that is why we have, okay, imagine this calculator now. If I want to add, I can add any number, I can subtract any number, I can divide any number. So what does that mean? It means that if I'm adding, let's say plus 6, plus 9, plus 2. So what is happening? I'm adding repeatedly, continuously. So that is why we need, or that's where we need function. A block of code that we can always use and use and use until we are tired of using it or until we don't need it anymore. All right. So that's what functions are. And one thing, when you are building something, you begin to ask yourself, why or when should I use a function? It's very simple. When you have something that you need to call more than once in your code, a something like a function or like an action you want to perform more than one times in your code, you certainly need a function for it. I hope you guys are getting it. But in a situation where you need it just once, you don't need a function. But so far you are doing that particular action more than once, you need a function for it. So under functions, we have function declarations, we have function expressions, we have function calls, we have function arguments and return types. So we will be taking them one after the other. So now, when you talk of function declarations, do you remember variable declaration? I believe we all remember, right? Where we say you either use a let or a const, right? Let or const. So we have something like let my name is equal to JavaScript. All right. So this is variable declaration on its own because we can decide to just leave it like this. This variable declaration. And then by the time we now say equal to, we now give it a value. This is variable assignment. So if we like self, we can first declare a variable before we now come back and assign to the variable. So here we declared and here we assigned. So it's the same thing with function too. There's function declaration. So we can, to declare a function, you use the keyword function. Just like how to declare a variable, you use the word let or const. So using function, we have function. Then the next thing that follows immediately after function is the name of your function. Just like how if you are declaring a variable, after your let or your const, the next thing that follows the variable is the name of the variable. So also, we cannot say function, we can say add, or let's say the function is my name, or instead of my name, let's say print my name. All right. And then you have these normal brackets. And immediately after the normal bracket, you have this curly bracket. Now, this your normal bracket, we'll still talk about this, the use of this and the use of this. But just like I say, let's not run faster than our shadow. Let's take everything gradually. So that is your function declaration. So in your function declaration, you have the keyword function, you have the function name, you have the function keyword, you have the function parameters. This block here, this bracket you are seeing, we carry the function parameters. Whereas this bracket here, we carry your function body. So we'll still come back to each of these ones. That's why I did not emphasize on this and this, because we have something separate. So take note of that. Now, next, we have function expression. Now, function expression is another way of declaring your function. It's just that it's a little bit different. Now, do you remember when we were talking about declaring variable? You can also use a function like a variable. How? For instance, just like what we have here, function print my name, we can have a variable, right? Const my name equal to function. So in this case, what we are doing now, This, okay, let me claim this. Now, what we have here is no different, is no really different from what we have here. The only difference is that now we are actually giving this variable the value of a function. You know, normally, if you are declaring a variable, you give it a value directly. But this time around, the value we are giving to this variable is not a normal value. Instead, is a function. So it will not depend on which value this function is going to send or is giving out. That's when we now determine what this my name is going to be carrying. So this is what they call function expression, where you actually create a variable and you give the variable the value of a function. This is called function declaration, where you have the keyword function followed by the name of your function. But for your function expression, you have the name of your variable and then you just have the function keyword. So take note of this. So next, we have, you see, this is the function expression. So we have our function keyword, we have our variable name, sorry. So we have function keyword, we have variable name, we have our function parameters, and then the function body. Yeah. So now function calls. So we have talked about function, right? How do we use it? Yes, we've talked about how to declare function. We've talked about the function expression. We've talked about function declaration. Now, how can we use this function? That is where your function call comes in. Now, the beauty about function is that you declare it once, you use it multiple times, just like our variable. If you remember why we're playing with our logical operators, we define n1, n2, n3 just once, but then we're able to use it repeatedly. So it's the same way too with function. And the way to use your function is by using your function call. Now, the difference between your function declaration or function expression with your function call is that there's you won't use the keyword function when you are calling your function. You don't use the keyword function. Yes, so take note of that. And then so let's look at function argument and return type. So of course, before we do this, let's look at how to write a function, right? So let's say we have function name. So we have our function keyword, we have the name of the function. The name of the function here, me particular name its name. Or instead, let's say add. We want to create a function that can add, right? Remember, we have this bracket, and then next, we have this bracket. Now we say this is the parameter. Now, it's not necessary for a function to have parameters. You understand? We'll still come to that. Here, function body. This function body is everything this function is going to evaluate, or the function is going to carry out. That's the actions the function itself will carry out. So in this case, I want to add two numbers together. All right. Or I want to add, let's say I have, permit me, let's say I have let n1 be 7, and then let n2 be 2. All right. Now, let's say I want to add these two numbers here. I'll say n1 plus n2. Right? And here, what I'm going to do is either, okay, let me console.log so that we'll see the answer. Remember what we talked about console.log? It always gives you the output. So console.log. Now, do you see, is anything happening here? You can see that nothing is happening. Why? Let's come back to our material and evaluate. Do you remember what we talked about function declaration and function call? Now, for the fact that you declared a function does not mean the function, like, automatically you are using it. No, you just declared it and kept it. For you to be able to use it, you have to call it. And how do you call a function? By just calling the name of the function with this bracket and then your semicolon. So now, here, what are we expecting this function to do? We're expecting it to add n1 and n2 and display the answer for us. Now, 7 plus 2 will give us what? 9. So how do we now call this function? The name of the function, what is the name of the function? Add. And then remember, what do we add? The brackets and then our semicolon. Now, what do you have here? You have 9. So even after declaring a function and defining a function, to use the function, you have to call the function. So I can decide to say here now, the function is going to print name. So depending on any name I put here, let's say I put the name Gideon, right? Okay, permit me. Let me claim this one. Okay, sorry, I changed the name of the function. So now have another function called print name. Now, how do we call this function? Of course, we call it using print underscore name and this. Now, what do we have? We have Gideon. So anywhere I call this function is going to print out this Gideon. You can see. If I call it again, it will print it out. If I call it again, it will print it out. So function, the idea of function is to define once and use multiple times. So that is function. So is there any question? Okay, please, Jethro, go on.
Okay, sir. My first question is that within the code
Yes.
blocks,
Yes,
so
yes.
what we have within the code blocks is what we call function expressions.
Okay, within the code blocks, right?
Yeah.
What you
Yes,
have
sir.
is the body of the function, right? Now, what is function expression? Let's say I want to use, now, this is function declaration. We talked about function declaration, all right? Now, let's say I want to use function expression. It means instead of giving it a function name, my function name now will become a variable. So what I'm going to have is going to be const print name equal to, now I will now pass in function as a value to this my variable. So I'm now going to have function bracket and then my function body. What will now be my function body? Console.log. Of course, I want to print out name. Let's say JavaScript. All right. So now, if I want to use this function expression now, it's just for me to call the variable that I passed my function into. So are you seeing it? Here, I use just the keyword function, which is my function declaration. This is function declaration where I passed in function and then the name of my function, then the body of my function. Anything I want my function to do, I pass it in the body. But in this case, the name of my function now becomes a variable. And then I'm passing just function and then the brackets and then my function body to this variable. So to use this one now, what I'm going to do is just to call the variable print name. And then I have this. So does that answer your question? Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So now let's look at, we have talked about function declaration, we have talked about function call. All right. So it's in our hook again. So please submit, let it load. So now function arguments and return types. Now, if you look at all what we have been doing, you see that this bracket, this normal bracket, there have been nothing inside. It has been empty. Then also, there's nothing like return in inside our function. You understand? So now, your function parameters are just like, you know how you declare variable. So function parameters are like variables your function are going to be using at the point of calling them. That's when you want to call the function, the variables the function will be using. That's what you know as function parameters. Then while calling your function, the values you pass to it is called function argument. So parameters are variables, arguments are values. After variable, you have value. So in function, what you pass in here as a variable is what is called the function parameters. But what you pass in when calling the function, in which must be the values of those parameters, is what is known as function argument. And then to output anything from your function, you have to use the word return. So that's how you see the word return types. So depending on what you are returning, for instance, if I'm putting in a number here, it means what I should be expecting here should be a number. So the return types becomes a number. If I'm passing in a string here, if I'm returning it, it means what I'm expecting here should be a string. And like that, like that. So now let's look at how can we take advantage of this. So let's look at this function, right? Now remember, we did this function, print name, and we are not passing any name to the function, right? We are just console logging. We are just printing out the name inside of the function, but we are not giving the name any parameter. So we can now do another function. We can say function greet. Let's say we want to greet. And to greet now, let's say, you know, for you to be able to greet someone, right? You need, okay, let me even do this. Let's say, let me just use name and print name. So let's say function print name. Now, for me to print your name, I actually need to know what your name is. All right. I don't want to use a constant name. I want it that anybody that comes can just call the function with his name and then to print out his name. So in this case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be collecting a parameter called name. Now, this is a function parameter. So what is function parameter? Just like I said, just look at it like input. What you are actually passing into the function when you are calling the function. So now, next comes our function body. Now, what are we planning to do? We're actually planning to return, we are returning what? Name. Right? So what we are doing here, we are taking name as an input and we are returning name, the same name that we put as input, we are returning it as an output. So in other words, we can decide to say, okay, instead of return, so that somebody heard now, let's first use console.log. I know we are used to console.log. So console.log, in this case now, I'll put my name is, hey, no, sorry. Let me let me let me not go and use Rust too for you guys. So my name is name. So what is going to happen here is that it's going to print my name is column, then space. Then immediately after this place, if you look at it, I'm using comma to separate.
So if you can hear me, can you just put up a reaction? All right. Ebuka, please, you could take over. I guess maybe he has network issue. So before you join in back, let me just try to reach out to him. So Ebuka, can you hear me? You could take over, please, before he joins in. I'm trying to reach out to him.
Yes, I can hear you, but presently now I'm trying to like power up my system. So maybe don't patient for me a little, please. I'm coming.
Okay, all right. So let's just exercise a bit of patience, please, on the call. Let me reach out to the mentor.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Ayomide, can you hear me? Ayomide, can you hear me? It's still on there. Ayomide. Okay, please, can you please send the slide to me? Because I want to just make sure the
Okay, all right.
slides for the explanation.
I'll do that on WhatsApp. Let me do that on WhatsApp.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, when did the call went off?
Okay, no problem. Don't worry about that. You can go
You
ahead.
say?
Thank you. I say no problem. You can go ahead.
Okay. Like it was my router. I forgot that it's not plugged actually. So so like, did you guys get this one when I did this? Hello, are you hearing me?
Yeah,
Your
we
screen is
can
not
hear
being
you.
shared.
Okay, but okay, sorry. Yay. Permit me, I'm sharing my screen now. So I don't know if you are seeing it now. Are you seeing it now? Okay. So where did I stop? Like, do you guys get this return part? Hello? Like, do you guys get the return part? Or it was before then?
We stopped at that return.
Okay. Thank God. So, here we're busy using console.log, all right? But in reality, most of the times in your main JavaScript program, you use more of return than console log. Console log is actually for like to help us know what is going on. Like print it, let me see what is happening. You understand? That's the whole idea of console log. But a majority of the time you'll be making use of function, it will always be return. So you will always be returning something. All right. So just like I say, name here is a variable, more like a placeholder. That's why here is called a function parameter. But in the process of calling our function, we need to feed in the value of this variable. And in this case, we are feeding it with jthrough. Now, there's something we are supposed to learn in the third week, right? But let me just do something here. Now, in a situation where you can give your parameter a value at a go, most essentially, if the parameter was supposed to have a default value, there are some, when you buy a television or you buy a phone, there's a default value, there's a default wallpaper, there's a default ringtone it has, until when you decide to change the ringtone. There's a default wallpaper, there's a default font style. You understand? Until when you decide to change it. So it's the same thing too with functions. All right. So I can decide to give it in such a way that once you call the function without any parameter, it should print JavaScript for us. In that case, I can call the function without any parameter. Then it will always print the value of the parameter as the default. Well, once I'm calling it with a value, right, it will always print that particular value. You understand? So is there any question? Is there any question? Well, we have plenty gurus in this class, so thank God. Next class, I will just call somebody to just be teaching us. These people, I'll just understand everything. All right. So let's see. Okay. So comment. I believe you guys have done this in your HTML, even your CSS, right? I believe you've done comment your HTML, yeah, your CSS. So also in your JavaScript, there's also what they call comment. So, and I've been using it actually. Like here, you can say I commented this part of my code. So in your comment, there are two kinds of comments in JavaScript. In fact, there are three types, but for now, let's just leave it to two types. There's one they call doc string. That one is triple slash, but let's not go there. It's not really important right now. So we have single line comment and multi-line comment. So single line comment is when you are just commenting out a single something, just that particular line. While multi-line is when you are commenting out a whole line of code. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 4. So this is how you comment single line comment, and this is how you do a double or multiple line comment. All right. So let's say, for instance, I want to comment the entirety of this code. I can decide to go ahead and be commenting them line by line, or I can just decide to come and do a multi-line comment. Now, how do I do a multi-line comment? I put a slash, a star at the beginning, and then at the end of what I'm commenting, I put a star and a slash. So you can see. Why for a single line comment, I just need to do this. Now, for doc string, you add one more. So this is actually a doc string where you have 3 of these, but just like I said, it's not really part of our this week's class. So just this is a single line comment. This is multiple line comment. So take note of that. All right. So of course, I believe you know what commenting is. That's when you want to make a part of your code not run. You understand? You want to make the JavaScript engine or whatever is compiling your code not to actually compile that part. So that's when you use comment. So it's used for many things though, to debug and all of that. Although we'll see more use of the single line and multiple line comment when it comes to solving problems with JavaScript. All right. So is there any question? Is there any question before we move? Okay, Jetro, please go on. Go on.
Okay. Can you please go back to your code, sir?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mean this one, right?
Yes. So I noticed that you declared a name, like
Yes.
your parameter JavaScript, and when you called it Gideon, you placed Gideon, yes, and then the result is Gideon. Does that mean that the latest value, like at the call, overwrites that of the parameter?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. The only time where you have this your parameter value displayed is when you did not pass in any value while calling the function. That's when by default that of the parameter will come up. So you're actually right. You're right. All right. So let's look at some practice questions, right? So we have this practice question, and what did he say? He says task create a variable called name and assign it your first name. I believe we can all do this one. Secondly, say create a variable called age and assign it your current age. I still believe we can do this one. Then print both variables using console log, right? So if we come to our code editor, of course, we say let name, we have Gideon, let age, we have 200. I know somebody who is happy. So let me know this boy's age. 200 years old. Then they say we should console.log the two. So first one, I'm going to console log the name. Then secondly, I'm going to console log the age. So you can see name Gideon, then age 200. So I believe everybody can do this. All right. So let's look at the next one. So the next one says create two variables. Please, if you have question, you can always unmute your mic and then speak. You know, if I'm on this screen, like the Meet, Google Meet, this thing is not.
Okay, sir. Let me just ask a direct question. I think.
Okay.
After declaring the name and the age.
Yes.
So you did console.log name console.log age. Can't we just? I'm just thinking aloud. Can't we, since we have console.log, can we just call name, then maybe a comma, then call age? Will it work that way?
Yes, we can, right? All right. Now, if we want to do that, we can't do that together this way. Well, we can actually. I was thinking we can't. So you can see, but make sure you always use a comma though, because without comma, it will always throw an error. So we can actually. I was thinking we can't. Yeah, so we can. That's a good one. I love that. That's a good observation. Okay. So let's look at practice 2. It says create two variables, A and B, and assign them numbers. That's give them any number of your choice. 2, perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, division on these variables. And then lastly, print the results of each operation. So now, of course, they say two variables. We can say let A is 1, let B is 4. That is the first thing they say we should do. Next, they say we should perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All right. So now we can say let's add equal to A plus B. The second one, let sub, that's subtraction, equal to A minus B. Let more, that's multiplication, equal to A multiplied by B. And then finally, let div, that's division, equal to A divided by B. All right. Then they say we should print them out. So console.log add, sub, mul, and div. So 1 plus 4, 5. 1 minus 4, minus 3. 1 times 4, 4. 1 divided by 4, 0.25. If we like, we can interchange. Give this one 4 and give this one 1. So 4 plus 1, 5. 4 minus 1, 3. 4 times 1, 4. And then 4 divided by 1, 4. So that is for practice 2. So is there any question? Okay. So let's look at practice 3. It says create two Boolean variables. It's raining and it's sunny. Assign them true or false value. That's, you can pick anyone. For instance, rain fell here not too long. Rain just finished falling. So I can decide to put it's raining to be true and it's sunny to be false because it's evening. There's no sun. So it depends. It's your choice. So secondly, it says write a condition using and or operators to check the weather. 3, print different messages depending on the condition. Example, take an umbrella if it's raining. So this one, this practice 3, right? Let's just leave it. Let's leave it till after the next class. The reason being that there's a condition attached to it. Do something when this is this. So there's a condition. We have not done conditional statement yet. So we need to do conditional statement for us to be able to do this. All right. So now the next one, let's look at practice 4. It says create a variable with your favorite quote as a string. Use string concatenation or template literals to combine it with your name. Example, John says, print the final message. So remember, I talked about string concatenation at the course of our class. So now let's say let fav quote, more like let favorite quote. My favorite quote is never give up. All right. So now that's one. That's create a variable with your favorite quote as a string. I've done that. Next, you say use string concatenation or template literals to combine it with your name, e.g. John says, and then print the final message. So now here, I'm now going to say my name. Let my name equal to Gideon Bature. All right. So I can now come here and combine the two. And I say console.log, right? And say my name plus, remember concatenation, we use plus to combine two or more strings together, plus says plus favorite quote. So now you can see what we have here. Now, if you check, see Gideon Bature says never give up. Now, if you look at, there's no space between Bature and says, and there's no space between says and never. So what it simply means is I'm going to give that space. Sorry. So I'm going to give that space here, and I'm also going to give that space here, so that I have space here before the say and after the say. So it's, you can see Gideon Bature says never give up. So just like I said, if there's any question, you can please always like unmute your mic and then let me know. All right.
Sir, I think I still have a question. I have a question.
Okay. Okay,
yes.
Please go
on. String concatenation, temporal literals. I think there is one other method I saw in one of the documentation. Is it using something HTML to add strings? I don't know.
Okay. Okay, that one, right? It will come when we are dealing with DOM manipulation. Right? That's
okay.
Yes,
okay.
That's when we are now interacting with our HTML and CSS using JavaScript. You understand?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Although
yes,
there are other methods too. There are other methods too, right? Like the join method. But for now, just like I said, we have not done this thing. What's the name? We have not done string method. So I don't want to combine you guys with plenty things. So there's another method called join, something string.join. But for now, I don't want to. Let's just deal with the basics first. All right. So okay, let's look at this practice. Have we done 6? Okay, no, we have not. Okay, we just finished 4. So 5 says create a variable temperature and assign it a value. Use a comparison operator to check if the temperature is greater than 25. Store result of the comparison in a variable and print it, right? So number 1, we'll create a temperature variable. Number 2, we'll give it a value. Number 3, we'll compare it, whether it's greater than 25. Then the last part of it, we are going to store it somewhere and then print it. So, of course, we can say let temp. I'm going to use this as a short form of temperature. Let me assume that the temperature now around here is 15. All right, 15 degrees Celsius. So I'll just give it 15. And then I'll now say let temp compare. Now, if you are naming your variable, make sure you name your variable descriptively. Descriptively simply means you are naming your variable with what the variable is carrying. Okay, this one is carrying a temperature. Of course, that's why I named it temp. That's short form of temperature. This variable will carry the result of the comparison of 15 and 25 because they say we should check according to this thing. It says check if the temperature is greater than 25. So we'll now check, is our temperature, is it greater than 25? Right? And then the answer, we should now print the result. So if you want to print the result, console.log temperature compare. So you can see it's false because why? 15. Temp here is 15. So is 15 greater than 25? No, 15 is not greater than 25. So that's why here is giving us false. So any question? So here, then the number 6 practice, it says create a variable without assigning any value. Are you seeing it? Next, print the variable to see the output. Next, now assign null to the same variable and print it again. So first, we are going to print a variable. Let variable equal to, they say we should just declare it. We should not give it a value. Then they now say we should print it. Now, what do you see? Undefined. So who can tell me why is it showing us undefined?
Because there is no assigned value to it. So
Perfect.
it will be undefined.
Perfect. So because there's no assigned value. So now they now say we should not give it a value. All right. Did they specify? Let me see. Did they specify the kind of value? Assign any value. Okay. Now assign null. Okay, they say we should assign null to it. So null. And then the answer we should print it out. So what do we have? Null. Are you seeing it? Why? Because we have actually assigned a value and a value of what? Null. So is there any question concerning that? So now let's look at this number 7. It says declare a function named greet that takes a person's name as an argument. Sorry, it's supposed to be a parameter. Anyways, 2, inside the function, print a greeting message like hello, comma, then the name. Then third, call the function and pass any name to it. So first of all, we are declaring a function and we are naming the function greet. And the function should take a person's name. All right. So here now we are going to have function. They said the name of the function should be greet, and it should take in the name of a person, right? And what should the function do? They say it should print hello, comma, then the name. You understand? So we can use concatenation plus name. That's what they ask us to do. So let's confirm. So takes a person's name as an argument. Inside the function, print a greeting message like hello, comma, then name, exclamation. Call the function and pass any name to it. So already we have done this, right? So next, they say we should call the function. Now in calling our function, what should we do? Can somebody help us? If I want to call this function now.
You would call it by greet, then
okay.
Function, then you put a name.
Okay, so which name should I put?
Gideon, sir.
Okay, let me put you through. All right, so do you guys see it? So now what we are having now, we're having hello Jethro, or we can decide to even respect JavaScript. They say hello JS. So is there any question? Okay, so practice 8 says write a function named multiply that takes 2 numbers as argument. 2, the function should, okay, let's start with the first one first. They say write a function called multiply that takes 2 numbers as argument. So we are going to go. Now we say function multiply. They say it takes in 2 arguments. So I'm going to use num1 and num2. You can use anything. You can use x and y. You can use a and b. Just make sure they are not the same thing. So now this is the function. Now let's check. What did they now say we should do? The function should return the product of two numbers, right? So it means that this function, it should return the product of those two numbers, which is the n1 times the num2, right? So let's see, did they ask us to do anything again? They say call the function with two numbers and print the return value. So who can help us? How can we call this function?
We'll still call the function multiply.
Okay.
Then the brackets, then we'll do maybe 1 times 1.
Okay. So what do we have? You can
1.
see we have 1. So we can even decide to say maybe 4 and 2. What do we have? We have 8. We can decide to call it multiple times. You know, I told you now that's the advantage of functions. You can use them multiple times. So here we can decide to pass 5 and 8. And then it will give us, we can still decide to call it again with another different number. So is there any question? All right. So I think we are in the final one. This thing of hook. So let me see. Wait a little. So this is the last one. So it says write a multi-line comment at the top of your script describing what your code does. Add single line comment inside your code explaining each step. All right. So now this one now for multi-line comment, what do we say? We'll say I am a function that multiplies two numbers together. So you can see we have made use of our multi-line comment to describe what our function is doing. Because what is it doing? The function is actually multiplying two numbers together. And then we should now use a single line comment to explain each line inside. Now, this is the only line that is inside our function. So you can say, I am returning the multiple. Okay, no. Okay, yes, I am returning num1 multiplied by num2. Yes, so this is what they ask us. So remember your multi-line comment, your single line comment. So is there any question? So finally, this last one, it says create a variable x and assign it an initial value of 10. So create a variable x, let x, assign it an initial value of 10. This is step 1. All right. Now, it says use the plus equal to operator to add 5 to x. Right. Now, let me ask a question. Peradventure, I did this. Right. And then they say we should add 5 to x. Right. So it means I'm going to say x is equal to x plus 5. Now, why is this thing giving us an error? Let me ask. Because x is 10, right? It's just like I come to my calculator, right? And I have 10. I can decide to add 5 to 10 and it will give me 15. Why is it that I'm trying to now add that same 5? Because x already is 10. So what I'm trying to do is to now add 5 to the 10 and then save it back as my x. Now, why is it that it's throwing me an error? And go on, please, go on.
With constant bar, you cannot
Yes.
change anything.
Very good.
So that x times.
Very good. So with constant, I can actually change the value of x. So for this one to work, I have to change it from const to let. Now you can see with let, it has now worked. We are now having 15. Beautiful. So it shows that people are following. So now they now say use the operator to multiply by 3. So they say that we should still multiply by 3. So we'll come to our code again. We'll now still have x is equal to x times 3, right? Then let me see. I think we have the final part of it. And I say print the final value of x. Already, this code editor is actually giving us the final value, but we can still print it. So console.log x. So what do we have? We have 45 because x is 10. By the time we add 5 to x here, we are going to have 15. And then we are storing it back into x. And here we are now multiplying the x by 3. Now this x now is now 15. So we'll now do 15 times 3, which will now give us 45. So any question?
So I just want us to go back a bit. Like there is this, is it question 7 or question 8? Declare
Okay.
a function name greet.
Okay.
That
Yes.
one we did.
Yes.
So I want to ask, sometimes you
Yes.
can actually, for the parameters, you can
Yes.
put maybe a name and a greet. So when you are calling it,
Yes.
maybe must you call it directly according to how the parameters are, or if you switch it, it will still work?
Okay. Now let's try it, right? But before we try it, you have to follow it in that order. If in your parameter, your name comes before your greet, it means while calling your function, you have to pass in your name first before you pass in the greet. All right. But then just like I say, let's try it out and see. That's the beauty of programming. So we can say, okay, function greet. We can have name first, or instead of name, we can have time. That's time of the day, and then name. All right. And then we'll now say console.log greet. I say greet, sorry, time, and then name. So now, of course, next thing is to call the function, right? So I'm calling the function. We all agree that we'll use the function name, and then time. Okay, let's say this is evening. So we'll say good evening, right? Then the name, let's say good evening JavaScript. So are you seeing good evening JavaScript? So let's say, for instance, when I interchange it instead of good evening now, right? It will still work, not that it will not work, but just like it will not give us what we are looking for. So let's say JavaScript, and let's say good evening. Sorry. So do you see JavaScript good evening? So once you are interchanging the value, it will always come in the order of the first and the second. Do you get it?
Yes, I do, sir. Cool.
The only time where you don't really necessarily, although even at that, if you are passing in the two, you must, is when, okay, let's say for instance, this one now, this time, you are passing in a default value of, let's say, good evening, right? Now, in this case, I can just pass in name here. Now, of course, here, time is supposed to come first, but time has a default value of good evening. So, me bringing only name, time will always appear. Okay, you can see, this one is even appearing first. Oh, that means this one doesn't work. Sorry, it actually works with Python. So I was thinking it's going to work with JavaScript here. Unfortunately, it's not. But if it's Python now, right? This good evening, which is default value, will come first, followed by the name here. All right. But it seems this one don't work like this. It only works when it's just a single parameter. That's surprising. Anyways, so always take note of that. The order here, you always follow the order that you put it here while calling it. So any other question? Is there any other question? All right. So I have a quiz. The technical mentors, they are going to like send a link. I don't know. I believe all of you, your emails are active, right? That's the emails you register for the bootcamp. They're active. because I'm thinking whether the link should be sent directly to the group or it should be sent to each person's email. So anyways, I think the technical mentors will know what to do. So they're going to send a quiz. It's just 20 questions, right? So, and it covers everything we've done today. There's nothing outside. There's nothing in that quiz that's outside of what we did today. So, and again, the materials too, the mentors, they are going to drop the material. That's this particular material for you people in case you want to go through, like take out the time to go over it and then maybe practice, because that's one thing with programming. For you to be good at it, you have to practice. And that's why I say you have to incorporate practice into it, about 10, because that's the best way to learn. You know that now I've taught you everything and then it's looking like you understand. Make sure you go and practice. The more you practice, the more you learn. The more you practice, the more you understand. All right. So, so any question? Okay. So I think in the absence of none, can we call it a day?
You said you were going to show us how to install run.js.
Ah, thank you for reminding me. So if you are okay, like me, I'm on Windows, so I can't actually install on any other one except Windows. So what you just need to do is to come directly here. You click on it. So once you click on it, it's going to show you to download. So I'll go ahead and download. And then once you've downloaded it, of course, the next thing is for you to run it. Me, I already have it. All right. So I'm not going to install it, but I'm just showing you how you go about it. All right. So you just click on it and then you can see it will start installing and all of that. But just like I said, I will not install it because I already have it installed. But it's just the whole it's going to bring a pop-up. So it actually installed though. Okay, let me see. Buy license. The person that tried to install, is this what is showing you to buy a license? Okay, Ruben, you can go on, please.
Mine is not working no, because I'm using Mac. The thing is
Okay.
showing error.
Okay. For the Mac, which one did you download? You know, Mac,
First
you
one.
have. Okay, you use this one.
Yes.
Which error is it showing you?
It's just not loading. Just show the blank page.
Okay, you mean on your system is not loading?
Yeah, show a blank space.
Which browser are you using?
Chrome and Brave.
Okay, let me see. No. I look at it here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Do you know what is going to happen?
No.
I'm going to download this one, right? And then the technical mentor, I'll send it to one of the technical mentors. He's going to send it directly. I believe they should be able to send it directly. You can unzip now, right? You have what you can use to unzip it.
Yeah.
So I'll download it, I'll zip it, then send it to the technical mentors to send directly to the group.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that's just what you just need to do to install it. All right. So I don't know, is there anybody, any other person? Any other person? So that's just how you install it. Just straightforward, download, and then all right. So in the absence of any question, so please just try and install it if possible today so that you can practice all what we did.